The USS Liberty moved slowly through space toward Kepler Station. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the huge space station grow larger on the main screen. This was his first time meeting the Vraxians, and he felt nervous. Earth had only joined the Galactic Federation 30 years ago. Humans were still the new kids in a galaxy full of alien races. "Captain, we're getting a message from the station," said Lieutenant Susan Cole from her post. "They're giving us permission to dock at Bay 7. Jake nodded. "Take us in, helmsman." The Liberty was not a warship. It was built for talking, not fighting. Jake's job was to make deals with alien races for Earth. Today's mission was important. The Vraxians controlled a big part of space that humans wanted to trade with. Without their permission, human ships could not travel through their territory. Peter Hayes, the team's expert on alien cultures, walked up to Jake. "Captain, I need to warn you again about Vraxian customs. They respect strength above everything else. They think peaceful races are weak." "I know, Peter. We've been over this," Jake said. "We just need to show them that humans can be trusted partners." "It's not that simple, sir. The Vraxians have conquered dozens of worlds. They've never lost a war. To them, might makes right." Jake watched Kepler Station fill the screen. The station was massive, bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from hundreds of different worlds docked there every day. It was neutral ground where all races could meet and trade. "Dr. Lisa Park reports that the medical bay is ready if needed," Susan said. "Good. Let's hope we won't need it." The Liberty docked with a soft bump. Jake straightened his dress uniform and checked his appearance one last time. First impressions mattered, especially with a warrior race like the Vraxians. The airlock opened with a hiss. Jake led his team through the station's corridors. Aliens of all kinds filled the walkways. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that Jake had trouble believing they were real. The air smelled different here, filled with the scents of 1,000 different worlds. They reached the meeting room. 2 Vraxian guards stood outside the door. Jake had seen pictures, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. The guards were 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor that looked like stone. Their yellow eyes watched the humans with what looked like hunger. "Captain Morrison of Earth," Jake announced. "We're here for the meeting with War Chief Thakmor." One guard spoke in a voice like grinding rocks. "You may enter, small ones." The meeting room was huge. A massive table sat in the center, built for beings much larger than humans. War Chief Thakmor sat at the far end. He was even bigger than his guards, with scars covering his armor-like skin. His claws drummed on the table as he watched the humans approach. "So," Thakmor said, "these are the humans I have heard about. You are even smaller than I expected." Jake kept his voice steady. "War Chief Thakmor, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Earth is honored by this opportunity." Thakmor's laugh sounded like an avalanche. "Honored? You should be terrified, little human. I have crushed species stronger than yours." Susan stepped forward with her datapad. "We have trade proposals that could benefit both our peoples. Earth has resources that—" "Silence!" Thakmor roared. "I did not give you permission to speak, female." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting mad would not help here. "War Chief, perhaps we could discuss the trade routes through your territory." Trade routes. Thakmor stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow over the table. "You want to cross Vraxian space? You want our protection? What gives you the right? We offer fair payment and—" "Payment?" Thakmor's eyes blazed. "Do you think we are merchants? We are warriors. We take what we want and destroy what opposes us." Peter cleared his throat. War Chief, in our research, we learned that Vraxians respect strength. Perhaps we could demonstrate... Demonstrate? Thakmor walked around the table toward them. Each step shook the floor. Yes, little human, you will demonstrate. I challenge your species to single combat. The room went quiet. Jake felt his heart stop. This was not in any of their plans. Single combat? Jake asked. It is our way, Thakmor said. When two peoples meet, the strong lead and the weak follow. Your champion will fight our greatest warrior. If you win, we will treat you as equals. If you lose... He smiled, showing teeth like knives. Earth becomes our property. Susan grabbed Jake's arm. Captain, we can't... If you refuse, Thakmor continued, all Vraxian territory becomes forbidden to humans forever. No trade, no passage, no contact. We will tell every race in the galaxy that humans are cowards. Jake's mind raced. Earth needed access to Vraxian space. Too many trade routes went through their territory. If humans were banned, it would set back Earth's expansion by decades. What are the rules? Jake heard himself ask. Ancient law, Thakmor said. No weapons, no armor, no machines. Flesh against flesh, strength against strength. Your champion against Krell Tath, our greatest warrior. How long do we have to decide? 1 rotation of this station, 24 of your hours. Thakmor returned to his seat. Choose wisely, humans. This decision will shape the fate of your entire species. The meeting ended in tense silence. Jake led his team back to the Liberty, his mind spinning. In the corridor, Susan grabbed his arm. Captain, we have to contact Earth Command. We need options. What options? Peter said. We can't fight them. Did you see the size of those guards? Their champion will be even bigger. Jake stopped walking. Through a viewport, he could see the station's central plaza. Aliens from dozens of worlds moved about their business. Some looked friendly, others dangerous. All of them would hear about this challenge. If humans backed down, word would spread across the galaxy. Get me a secure channel to Earth, Jake said. We need help, and we need it fast. Back in their ship, Jake stood in his quarters, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited for news. Billions of people who had no idea that their future might depend on a single fight. A soft knock came at his door. Come in! Staff Sergeant Danny Brooks entered and saluted. He was part of the ship's security team, a Marine from Texas. Captain, I heard what happened in the meeting. Word travels fast. Sir, I'd like to volunteer. Jake looked at the young Marine. Brooks was tough, but he was just a regular human. No special training, no genetic enhancement. Sergeant, do you understand what you're volunteering for? Yes, sir. A fight I probably can't win. Then why volunteer? Brooks was quiet for a moment. Because someone has to, sir, and because sometimes the impossible just needs someone stupid enough to try. Jake studied the Marine's face. He saw no fear there, only determination. I'll consider it, Sergeant. But first, we wait to hear from Earth Command. As Brooks left, Jake wondered if they were about to send a good man to his death. But what choice did they have? The Vraxians had made their challenge clear. Now humanity had to respond. News of the challenge spread through Kepler Station like fire. Within hours, every alien on the station knew about it. In the cantinas and trading posts, beings from across the galaxy placed bets on the outcome. None of them bet on the humans. Jake. Morrison sat in the Liberty's communication room, waiting for Earth Command to respond. The message had been sent 6 hours ago. Even with faster-than-light communication, it took time to reach Earth and get an answer. Susan Cole paced behind. Him. This is insane, Captain. We're diplomats, not gladiators. The Vraxians don't see a difference, Peter Hayes said from his corner. He had been reading everything he could find about Vraxian combat traditions. To them, words without strength are just noise. The communication panel beeped. Jake pressed the accept button. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired and worried. Captain Morrison, she said, we've reviewed your situation. The Joint Chiefs are not happy. What? Are our orders, Admiral? You're authorized to accept the challenge. We're sending our best enhanced soldier. Captain Rex Hamilton will arrive in 18 hours with full cybernetic upgrades and combat drugs. Jake felt relief, but Peter shook his head. Admiral, with respect, that won't work. Vraxian combat law forbids any technological enhancement. No cybernetics, no drugs, no armor. Just natural human strength. Admiral Chen's face darkened. Then we're sending Colonel Maria Santos. She's our top unenhanced fighter. She won't make it in time, Susan said. We have less than 20 hours left. Then find someone else, the Admiral said. Use whoever you have, but understand this, Captain. If we lose, Earth becomes a vassal state. If we refuse, we lose access to half the galaxy. There is no good option here. The transmission ended. Jake stared at the blank screen. 18 hours to find someone willing to fight a 9-foot alien. Warrior in hand-to-hand combat. Captain, came a voice from the doorway. Staff Sergeant Danny Brooks stood there, still in his work uniform. Permission to speak freely, sir. Granted. I know you're looking for someone to fight. I'm volunteering again. Susan stepped forward. Sergeant, this isn't a bar fight. The Vraxian champion has killed hundreds of opponents. I understand that. Ma'am. Jake studied the young Marine. Brooks was 28 years old, born on a ranch in Texas. He had joined the Marines at 18 and served on 3 different worlds. His record was clean, but nothing special. He was just a good soldier doing his job. Why do you want to do this, Sergeant? Brooks was quiet for a moment. My sister Amy always said I was too stubborn to know when to quit. Maybe that's what we need here. Peter looked up from his tablet. Captain, I've been studying Vraxian anatomy. They're incredibly strong, but they rely on brute force. They've never developed sophisticated fighting techniques because they never needed to. What does that mean? It means someone with good technique and enough determination might have a chance. Not a good chance, but a chance. Jake looked at Brooks again. The Marine was not the biggest or strongest man on the ship, but there was something in his eyes that Jake recognized. It was the same look he had seen in veterans who had survived impossible battles. It was the refusal to give up. Sergeant, if you do this, you'll probably die. Yes, sir, I know. And if you lose, Earth becomes a slave world. Yes, sir. Then why are you volunteering? Brooks straightened his shoulders. Because someone has to, sir. And because I'd rather die fighting than live knowing I was too scared to try. Jake made his decision. Report to Dr. Park for a full medical exam. If you're going to do this, we need to know exactly what condition you're in. Yes, sir. Brooks saluted and left. Susan stared at Jake. Captain, are you seriously considering this? He's just a regular Marine. Maybe that's exactly what we need. 3 hours later, Dr. Lisa Park called Jake to the medical bay. Brooks sat on an examination table while she reviewed his test results. Physically, he's in excellent condition, she said. No injuries, good reflexes, strong cardiovascular system. But, Captain, his opponent will outweigh him by at least 200 pounds. What about his chances? Dr. Park hesitated. Honestly, very low. The Vraxian will be stronger, faster, and has natural armor, but what? Sergeant Brooks has something interesting in his brain scans. His pain tolerance is off the charts, higher than I've ever seen in an unenhanced human. Brooks spoke up. Growing up on a ranch teaches you to work through pain, Doc. Bulls don't care if you're hurt. Jake turned to Peter. What else can you tell us about Vraxian fighting? Peter consulted his notes. They use their natural advantages: claws, armor, plating, raw strength. But they've never faced an opponent who could match their endurance. Most fights end quickly. What if this one doesn't? I don't know. No one has ever lasted long enough to find out. Jake watched Brooks climb down from the examination table. The Marine moved with easy confidence, like someone who had never doubted his ability to handle whatever came his way. Sergeant, you have 16 hours before the fight. How do you want to spend them? I'd like to study everything you have on Vraxian anatomy and fighting style. Then I want to write a letter to my sister. That's it? And maybe get some sleep, sir. Going to be a long day tomorrow. Jake found himself smiling despite the situation. Very well. Susan, get him everything we have on the Vraxians. Peter, I want you to work with him on strategy. As his team scattered to their tasks, Jake remained in the medical bay with Dr. Park. Doctor, what do you really think his chances are? She was quiet for a long time. In a straight fight? 0. The Vraxian will tear him apart in minutes. And if it's not a straight fight? Then maybe we find out what humans are really made of. 8 hours before the fight, Jake found Brooks in the ship's small gym. The Marine was not lifting weights or practicing combat moves. Instead, he sat cross-legged on a mat, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Meditation, Sergeant? Brooks opened his eyes. My grandfather taught me. He served in Vietnam. Said the mind was just as important as the body in a fight. Any regrets? About volunteering? No, sir. Someone from Earth has to stand up tomorrow. Might as well be me. Jake sat down across from him. The whole galaxy will be watching. I know. That's why I can't let them see a human quit. What if you can't win? Brooks was quiet for a moment. Then I'll make sure they remember how hard humans fight before they fall. 4 hours before the fight, Jake received another message from Earth Command. Admiral Chen appeared on the screen again. Captain, the President has been briefed. Whatever happens tomorrow, know that Earth is proud of your team. And if we lose, then we prepare for the consequences. But, Captain, sometimes the most important battles are the ones we fight even when we can't win. 2 hours before the fight, Brooks finished his letter to his sister. He sealed it and handed it to Jake. Just in case, sir. I'll make sure she gets it. Thank you, Captain. 1 hour before the fight, the team gathered in the Liberty's main corridor. Brooks wore simple training clothes, the only outfit allowed under Vraxian combat law. He looked calm, almost peaceful. Any last words, Sergeant? Jake asked. Brooks thought for a moment. Tell Earth that when the aliens asked for our best, we sent a Marine. As they walked toward the station's arena, Jake felt proud and terrified at the same time. In 1 hour, a young man from Texas would fight for the future of humanity. The odds were terrible, but somehow Jake felt hope. Maybe that was what made humans special. Maybe it was not their strength or their technology. Maybe it was their willingness to fight when there was no chance of winning. Soon they would find out. The arena was packed. Beings from across the galaxy filled every seat, drawn by news of the impossible match. Jake Morrison had never seen so many different alien species in one place. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange they seemed like living nightmares. The fighting pit was a circle 50 feet across, surrounded by energy barriers to protect the crowd. The floor was covered in sand that had been stained by the blood of countless fighters. High above, screens showed the action to those too far away to see clearly. Danny Brooks stood at the entrance to the pit, stretching his muscles and trying to stay calm. He could hear the crowd talking in dozens of different languages. Most of them were laughing. To them, this was entertainment, watching a small human get crushed by a Vraxian warrior. "Remember what we discussed," Peter Hayes said, standing beside him. "Vraxians are used to winning quickly. They rely on fear and shock. If you can survive the first few minutes, you might confuse him." "I remember," Brooks said. His voice was steady, but Jake could see the tension in his shoulders. Dr. Lisa Park checked his pulse one last time. "Your heart rate is elevated, but stable. Try to stay hydrated if you can." Susan Cole handed him a small towel. "The whole galaxy is watching, Sergeant. Make us proud." Brooks nodded and looked at Jake. "Captain, it's been an honor serving with you." "The honor is mine, Sergeant. Give them hell." A horn sounded, deep and loud. The crowd quieted as War Chief Thakmor entered a viewing box high above the arena. His voice boomed through speakers. "Citizens of the galaxy, today we witness the testing of a new species. The humans claim they deserve respect. We shall see if they have the strength to earn it." Another entrance opened across the pit. The crowd roared as Kreltath entered the arena. Brooks had seen pictures, but nothing prepared him for the reality. The Vraxian champion stood 9 feet tall and was covered in natural armor that looked like black stone. Scars covered his body like medals. His yellow eyes fixed on Brooks with the focus of a predator. Kreltath carried himself like a king. He had fought over 200 battles and never lost. Most of his opponents died within minutes. Some lasted long enough to beg for mercy. None had ever hurt him badly enough to matter. "Look at this tiny creature," Kreltath called out, his voice like grinding stone. "The humans send me a child to play with. This will be over before it begins." The crowd laughed and cheered. Betting tablets flashed as final wagers were placed. The odds were 1,000 to 1 against the human. Brooks walked to the center of the pit. The sand felt rough under his bare feet. He looked up at the thousands of watching eyes and felt the weight of his entire species on his shoulders. "Warriors!" Thakmor called. "You know the ancient laws. No weapons, no armor, no technology. Fight until one cannot continue. May the strongest prove his worth." Kreltath raised his arms and roared. The sound was deafening, meant to freeze his opponent with terror. Most fighters collapsed at that moment, broken by fear before the battle even began. Brooks did not collapse. He did not even flinch. Instead, he raised his own voice in response, not a roar, but something else. The battle cry of the United States Marine Corps, learned in boot camp and perfected in combat. "Ura!" The human war cry echoed through the arena. For just a moment, the crowd fell silent. They had expected fear from the small human. Instead, they heard defiance. The horn sounded again. The fight began. Kreltath charged like a freight train, claws extended and mouth open in a killing scream. Brooks did not try to meet the charge head-on. Instead, he dove to the side at the last second, rolling across the sand. The Vraxian's claws raked the air where Brooks had been standing. Kreltath spun around, surprised that his opponent was still moving. Brooks came up from his roll and struck at the back of Kreltath's knee, a pressure point Peter had identified in their research. The blow was precise and well-timed. The Bicam giant warrior stumbled, more from surprise than pain. "Impossible!" someone in the crowd whispered. Kreltath turned and swung a massive fist at Brooks' head. The Marine ducked under the blow and landed 2 quick punches to the Vraxian's ribs. His knuckles felt like they hit solid rock, but he saw Kreltath's eyes widen slightly. "You dare!" Kreltath roared. He grabbed for Brooks with both hands, trying to catch him in a crushing grip. Brooks slipped between the grasping claws and struck upward with his elbow, catching Kreltath under the chin. The blow snapped the giant's head back and opened a small cut above his left eye. The arena fell silent. A drop of dark blood ran down Kreltath's face. "First blood to the human," the announcer called, his voice full of shock. In the viewing box, War Chief Thakmore leaned forward. This was not going as expected. No opponent had ever drawn first blood from Kreltath. Most were dead by now. Kreltath touched the cut and looked at his own blood on his finger. For the first time in his life, he felt something new in combat. Not fear, but uncertainty. "You are quicker than you look, little human," he said. "But speed will not save you." This time, Kreltath did not charge. He advanced slowly, claws ready, looking for an opening. Brooks circled him, staying just out of reach, studying his opponent's movements. The crowd began to murmur. This was not the quick execution they had expected. The small human was actually fighting back. Kreltath lunged forward with a claw strike, aimed at Brooks's throat. Brooks leaned back, feeling the razor-sharp points pass inches from his neck. He grabbed Kreltath's wrist and used the giant's momentum to throw him off balance. It was a judo move Brooks had learned years ago. It should not have worked on someone so much bigger and stronger, but leverage was leverage, and surprise was everything. Kreltath crashed to the sand face first. The crowd gasped. No one had ever put their champion on the ground. Brooks did not waste the opportunity. He jumped on Kreltath's back and wrapped his arm around the giant's throat, trying for a chokehold. His grandfather had taught him this. Move while hunting wild boars on the ranch. Kreltath roared and rolled over, crushing Brooks beneath his weight. The Marine felt ribs crack under the pressure, but he held on. For 10 seconds, 20, 30, the longest anyone had ever maintained a hold on the Vraxian champion. Finally, Kreltath managed to grab Brooks and throw him across the pit. The Marine hit the barrier hard and slid to the sand, gasping for breath. Blood ran from his mouth. "Stay down," someone in the crowd called. "You've done enough." But Brooks struggled to his feet. His left arm hung useless at his side, and every breath sent fire through his damaged ribs. But he was still standing. Kreltath rose slowly, touching his throat where Brooks had nearly choked him. "Why do you continue? You cannot win." Brooks spat blood into the sand. "Because I'm a Marine. We don't quit." For the first time in 200 fights, Kreltath felt something he had forgotten existed. Respect for an opponent. "Then come," he said, raising his claws. "Show me what a Marine can do." The crowd held its breath as the two fighters approached each other again. The small human was clearly hurt, but he moved with the same determination as before. The giant Vraxian was uninjured, but something had changed in his eyes. Jake Morrison watched from the human section, his hands clenched into fists. His Marine was losing, but he was losing like a warrior. Every being in the arena could see it. "He's actually doing it," Susan whispered. "He's earning their respect." The fight was far from over, but something important had already happened. The galaxy was learning that humans might be small, but they had hearts as big as stars. The fight entered its second hour. Danny Brooks moved like a man possessed, his broken ribs screaming with every breath. His left arm hung useless, but he fought on with savage determination. Blood covered his face, and sand stuck to his sweat-soaked skin. Krell-Tath was breathing hard now, something that had never happened before. The human's refusal to stay down was wearing on him mentally. Every time he knocked Brooks to the ground, the Marine got back up. Every time he thought the fight was over, the small warrior found new strength. "Why won't you die?" Krell-Tath roared, landing a blow that would have killed most beings. Brooks rolled with the impact and came up swinging. "Because dying is easy, fighting is hard." The crowd had stopped laughing. Aliens who came expecting quick entertainment now watched in fascination. This human was showing them something they had never seen before: the absolute refusal to surrender against impossible odds. In the viewing boxes, representatives from dozens of worlds took notes. Military leaders studied Brooks's fighting style. Diplomats reconsidered their opinions of humanity. Whatever happened here would change how the galaxy viewed Earth forever. Jake Morrison gripped the railing so hard his knuckles were white. "Come on, Danny, just hold on." "Captain," Susan Cole said, "look at the crowd. They're not betting against him anymore." She was right. The alien spectators had stopped making wagers. Instead, they watched in silence as two warriors pushed each other beyond their limits. Peter Hayes checked his data pad. "He's been fighting for 97 minutes. No opponent has ever lasted this long against Krell-Tath." "How much longer? Can he go?" Jake asked. Dr. Lisa Parks studied Brooks through her binoculars. "Medically, he should have collapsed an hour ago, but somehow he's still moving." In the pit, Brooks ducked another massive swing and landed a kick to Krell-Tath's knee. The joint buckled slightly, and for the first time, the Vraxian showed real pain. "Impossible," Krell-Tath gasped. "You are broken. Your body should have failed." Brooks circled him slowly, looking for another opening. "My body is just meat and bones. But my spirit is Marine Corps strong." "What does that mean?" "It means I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees." Krell-Tath had never heard such words from an opponent. Usually, by this point, fighters were begging for mercy. This human spoke of honor and courage, as if they were more important than life itself. The giant warrior lunged forward with both claws extended. Brooks waited until the last possible second, then dropped to the ground and swept Krell-Tath's legs. The move was perfect. Using the Vraxian's own weight against him, Krell-Tath crashed to the sand again. This time, Brooks was ready. He grabbed a handful of sand and threw it into the giant's eyes, then landed 3 quick punches to his opponent's throat. The crowd erupted. No one had ever used the arena itself as a weapon before. It was brilliant, desperate, and completely unexpected. "You fight with no honor," Krell-Tath roared, clawing at his eyes. "I fight to win," Brooks replied. "Honor is staying alive to protect what matters." War Chief Thakmore stood in his viewing box, studying the human warrior. This small being was teaching his people something they had forgotten. True strength was not about size or power. It was about the will to continue when everything told you to quit. Krell-Tath cleared his vision and came at Brooks again, but something had changed. The Vraxian was fighting angry now instead of fighting smart. His attacks were wild and uncontrolled. Brooks had studied enough military history to recognize the moment. His opponent was losing discipline. The key was to stay calm and wait for the right opportunity. That opportunity came when Kreltath overextended himself in a massive haymaker punch. Brooks slipped inside the attack and grabbed the giant's arm. Using every technique he had learned in years of training, he applied a joint lock that would have broken a human arm. Kreltath's natural armor protected him from serious injury, but the pressure was immense. For 30 seconds, the two warriors were locked together, strength against technique, rage against determination. Finally, Kreltath broke free, but the effort cost him. He was favoring his right arm now, and his breathing was labored. "You cannot win," he said, but there was less certainty in his voice. "Maybe not," Brooks admitted, "but I can make you earn it." The next exchange was brutal. Kreltath landed a blow that sent Brooks flying across the pit. The Marine hit the barrier hard and slid to the ground, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. But again, impossibly, he stood up. The crowd was on its feet now, cheering not for a winner, but for courage itself. Beings from across the galaxy found themselves inspired by the small human's refusal to quit. "This is incredible," an alien commentator announced. "The human has been fighting for over 2 hours. His body is broken, but his spirit burns like a star." Kreltath advanced again, but more slowly now. He was hurt and tired, emotions he had not felt in battle for decades. This tiny opponent had done something no warrior had ever accomplished, made him doubt his own invincibility. "Why do you continue?" Kreltath asked. "You have proven your courage. No one would think less of you for surrendering." Brooks wiped, blood from his eyes. "Because back home, I have a sister who believes her big brother can do anything. I'm not going to let her down." "One person? You risk everything for one person?" "I risk everything for everyone. Every human who will come after me. Every child who needs to believe that good people fight for what's right." Something cracked in Kreltath's expression. In all his battles, he had fought for glory, for conquest, for the thrill of victory. This human fought for love, for family, for hope itself. "You are not what I expected," the giant warrior said. "Neither are you," Brooks replied. "You're better than your reputation." "What do you mean?" "You could have killed me in the first minute, but you're fighting clean, following the rules. That takes honor." For the first time in his life, Kreltath saw himself through an opponent's eyes. This human, broken and bleeding, still spoke of honor, still found respect for an enemy who was trying to destroy him. "Perhaps," Kreltath said slowly, "it is time to end this." He raised his claws for what everyone knew would be the final attack. Brooks stood ready, swaying on his feet but unbroken in spirit. The arena held its breath as two warriors prepared for the last exchange of their incredible battle. Whatever happened next would echo through galactic history forever. The arena was silent as death. 30,000 beings from across the galaxy held their breath. In the pit below, two warriors faced each other for what everyone knew would be the final exchange. Danny Brooks could barely stand. His ribs were broken, his left arm was useless, and blood clouded his vision. Every breath was agony, but his eyes remained clear and focused. He had given everything he had, and somehow found more. Kreltath stood 8 feet away, massive claws, raised for the killing blow. The Vraxian champion was hurt, too, more than he had ever been in 200 battles. His right arm ached, his throat was bruised, and for the first time in his life, he felt tired. "You have fought well, human," Kreltath said. His voice carried new respect. "I will make your death quick." "I appreciate that," Brooks replied, "but I'm not dead yet." War Chief Thakmor leaned forward in his viewing box. Something was different about this moment. In all the battles he had watched, the end was always clear. One fighter would dominate, the other would fall. But this felt like something else entirely. Jake Morrison gripped the railing until his hands hurt. His Marine had already done the impossible by lasting this long. But the fight was not over, and Brooks was still standing. Krell-Tath began his final charge. His claws caught the light as he moved with deadly precision. This attack would end everything. Brooks watched the giant warrior approach and made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of dodging or defending, he charged forward too. The two fighters collided in the center of the pit with tremendous force. Krell-Tath's claws raked across Brooks' chest, opening deep wounds. But in that same instant, Brooks landed the perfect punch, a right hook that caught the Vraxian directly on a nerve cluster behind his left knee, the weak spot Peter had discovered in his research. Both warriors went down hard. The arena erupted in chaos. No one had ever seen anything like this. The invincible Vraxian champion lay on the sand, his leg completely numb. The human Marine was down, too, blood pooling beneath him from the claw wounds. For 30 seconds, neither fighter moved. The crowd was on its feet, screaming in a dozen different languages. In the medical section, Dr. Lisa Park was already moving toward the pit entrance. Then, impossibly, both warriors began to struggle to their feet. Krell-Tath rose first, but his left leg would not support his weight. He fell back to one knee, confusion and pain clear on his face. No opponent had ever hurt him like this. Brooks rose more slowly, pressing one hand to the wounds on his chest. He swayed like a tree in a storm, but he stayed upright. "How?" Krell-Tath gasped. "How are you still standing?" Brooks looked down at his opponent. The giant warrior who had seemed invincible 2 hours ago now knelt in the sand, brought low by human determination and precise technique. "Because someone has to," Brooks said. "Because my people are counting on me. Because Marines don't quit." He could have attacked then. Krell-Tath was defenseless, unable to stand. One good kick would end the fight. Brooks would win, and humanity would earn its place among the galaxy's respected species. Instead, Danny Brooks did something that stunned every being in the arena. He extended his hand to help his fallen opponent stand. "What are you doing?" Krell-Tath asked. "Helping a fellow warrior," Brooks replied. "You fought with honor. You deserve to finish this on your feet." The gesture sent shock waves through the crowd. In thousands of years of Vraxian combat, no one had ever helped a fallen opponent. Victory was everything. Mercy was weakness. But as Krell-Tath looked up at the bloodied human offering assistance, he saw something that changed his understanding of strength forever. True power was not about crushing your enemies. It was about having the courage to show mercy when you could destroy. Slowly, carefully, Krell-Tath reached up and grasped Brooks's hand. The human helped pull the massive warrior to his feet. They stood together in the center of the pit, both broken but both undefeated in spirit. "I yield," Krell-Tath said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent arena. "The human has won." The explosion of noise was deafening. Aliens who had never heard of Earth 5 hours ago were now cheering for humanity. The impossible had happened. A regular Marine from Texas had defeated the galaxy's greatest warrior not through superior strength, but through heart, technique, and honor. War Chief Thakmore rose from his seat, his massive frame towering over the viewing box. "Citizens of the galaxy," he roared, "witness the birth of legends. These are not the weak creatures we expected. These are humans, warriors worthy of respect." Jake Morrison found himself crying as he watched his Marines stand victorious, but humble, in the center of the pit. Susan Cole was shouting herself hoarse. Peter Hayes was frantically taking notes, knowing he was witnessing galactic history. Doctor. Lisa Park reached the pit just as Brooks's legs finally gave out. He collapsed into her arms, his strength finally exhausted. "I did it, Doc," he whispered. "I didn't quit." "No, you didn't," she said, checking his wounds. "You magnificent, stubborn Marine. You didn't quit." Kreltath knelt beside them. "Doctor, will he live?" "He'll live," Park said. "But he needs immediate medical attention." The Vraxian champion nodded. "Good. I would speak with him when he is well." As Brooks was carried from the arena on a stretcher, the crowd gave him something that had never been given to any off-world fighter: a standing ovation from the entire station. 3 days later, Brooks woke up in the medical bay of the USS Liberty. His chest was bandaged, his arm was in a sling, but he was alive. Jake Morrison sat beside his bed, reading reports on a datapad. "Captain," Brooks said, his voice rough, "did we win?" Jake smiled. "We did more than win, Sergeant. We changed everything." "What do you mean? The Vraxians have offered us full partnership rights. Free passage through their territory, joint defense treaties, cultural exchange programs. War Chief Thakmore says humanity has proven its worth." A knock came at the door. Kreltath entered, ducking to fit through the human-sized doorway. In his massive hands, he carried something small and intricate. "I have come to give you this," he said, holding out a curved piece of metal covered in Vraxian symbols. "It is a battle-scar tattoo, given only to our greatest warriors." Brooks studied the piece. "I can't accept this. I'm not Vraxian." "No," Kreltath agreed. "You are human, but you have taught my people something valuable. Strength is not about size or power. It is about the courage to stand up when everything tells you to fall down." He placed the tattoo gently on Brooks's bedside table. "You showed mercy to a fallen enemy. In 1,000 years of fighting, no Vraxian has ever done such a thing. We have learned much from you, Marine Brooks." "What will happen now?" Brooks asked. "Now, the galaxy knows what humans are truly made of," Jake said. "They know we don't fight because we're the strongest. We fight because we're too stubborn to quit." Kreltath nodded. "When the stars grow old and the last worlds fade, warriors will still tell the story of the Marine who gave the galaxy's greatest champion a battle he would never forget." As news of the fight spread across human space, Danny Brooks became a legend. Children learned his name in school. Marines carried his story into battle. Earth's place among the stars was secured not by weapons or technology, but by the simple refusal of one good man to give up. The galaxy had asked for humanity's strongest fighter. Instead, they got something better. They got a Marine who proved that the human spirit was stronger than any physical force in the universe, and in the end, that made all the difference.